guys, what's going on? Welcome to another Patreon exclusive collection tour. This time we're looking at the record collection. I think this will be the first of 3 videos spotlighting the my vinyl collection, because I've got about a third of the records at my feet here. I haven't pulled anything. There's nothing that's off limits, no guilty pleasures or secret shames or anything like that. Whatever's here, I will own. I'll tell you ahead of time, most of these are probably not in order, and they're all facing away from me, so I can't screen like I want you to see this before I want you to see this. But they will be just as much a surprise to me as they will be to you. So with that being said, let's just dig into these one by one. So the first record is Play Gypsy, or Play Gypsy. I don't this is probably the latter. Play Gypsy. I picked this up at a thrift store. I've listened to it once. It didn't do a lot for me. I'm into the kitschy, the offbeat. Frankly, I thought a lot of this stuff, you'll probably see a lot of this stuff. I thought that it would be cool source music to maybe put in some of my videos, because I can't imagine that Play Gypsy is not public domain, or that someone is going to come like Columbia or whoever. See, this is from Treasure. I don't know who that is. I can't imagine that someone would come copyright knocking for that, like, hey, take that down. But there was nothing there. It was kind of a, I don't know, I should listen to it again. I remember listening to it once and I didn't love it. Smell the Flowers by Jerry Reed. Now, I am a huge Jerry Reed fan. As you will probably see, I've got quite a few Jerry Reed records. Old school country, I specifically like 60s and 70s country. A little bit of the 80s stuff too, but Jerry Reed was just one of those guys. He was a session musician, studio musician. Wrote a lot of stuff, like Elvis's Guitar Man. A lot of stuff that Elvis sang, Jerry Reed penned, and he could play guitar like nobody's business. Linda Ronstadt's Greatest Hits. Gatefold cover. Not much to say. I'm just gonna, if I don't have anything to say, we'll just keep moving. Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. Now this is a classic album, and this still has the, you guys know, sometimes if you buy these through the mail, they'll take the record out of the sleeve and ship it like in the back, I guess, because it makes it more secure. But anyway, this is a classic one, and it plays beautifully. Plays as if it's never been played before. It sounds so good. Stray Cats, Built for Speed. I love the Stray Cats. Brian Setzer, Lee Rocker. These guys are back together now. They're about to embark on a 40th anniversary album and tour, and sadly, they're not coming anywhere close to me, so I can't go see them, but I will definitely be buying the album and supporting them as much as I can. Commodores Live. Yeah. Cyndi Lauper, She's So Unusual. Now this is a great album. Pinnacle, Cyndi Lauper. This one has Girls Just Want to Have Fun, Time After Time, She Bop, All Through the Night. This is a great album. My daughter loves Cyndi Lauper too. I've somehow successfully managed to pass that on. Chuck Berry, Johnny B. Good. I don't know what this is. This called Reelin' and Rockin'? Oh, it includes Reelin' and Rockin'. It's Chuck Berry, Johnny B. Good. I have 2 copies of this, so we might be seeing another one of these pop up in a little bit. But Chuck Berry, of course, essential for a record collection, right? Because Chuck Berry was the godfather of rock and roll, or one of the godfathers of rock and roll. U2, The Joshua Tree, classic album. Queen, A Night at the Opera. Kind of a 2-parter for Queen. You had A Night at the Opera, and then you had A Day at the Races. That should be here somewhere too. But this one had You're My Best Friend. Let's see. Bohemian Rhapsody. Queen is like all the rage now, all of a sudden again. It's like Queen never went away. Queen, Sheer Heart Attack. Yeah, here we go. Queen, A Day at the Races. And this one has Somebody to Love. I think that's the only radio hit off of this one. But this is classic era Queen. I mean, all Queen is classic era, right? I don't know. Maybe some of the mid-'80s stuff. By the time you get to Highlander, Flash Gordon era stuff, I don't know. Maybe it's not quite what it was. But here's the first album, Queen. It's got a little bit of a a little bit of a problem up here in the corner, but that's okay. It's about listening too, right? Queen, the game. Ooh, so shiny. So shiny. Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Another one bites the dust. Isn't it interesting how one movie, like the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, has completely reinvigorated Queen as far as like introducing them to people, getting people excited about them again? Not that Queen ever really went away, but they're definitely back in a bigger way than they have been in years. Heart, this is called Double Something. That's just Greatest Hits Live, and I think one album was Greatest Hits and one album was like a live performance thing. One of these records has some scratches on it, so this does not get a lot of play. One of these days I'll upgrade it, hopefully. But I do like Heart. And they're out touring again this summer. They've been doing a lot of summer tours. I might go see them this year. Guys, Shaft. You know, they say this cat Shaft is a bad mother. Shut your mouth. Let's talk about Shaft. This is great. Isaac Hayes. Love Isaac Hayes. This is, what can even be said about the Shaft soundtrack? It's classic. It's got Isaac Hayes, more albums by Isaac Hayes there as well. But sometimes our local, we have, you know what, the radio station I'm thinking of, I was going to say, sometimes our local radio station will play the Shaft theme in the morning. But that radio station has gone out of business now. They got bought by a gospel station. And boy, was I mad. Boy, was I upset about that. Because I would, every now and then you'd catch it. Like I'd be taking my kid to the bus stop and you hear like, and it's hard to have a bad day when you start your day with the theme from Shaft. What is this? The Electric Horseman, songs by Willie Nelson. I'm a huge Willie Nelson fan. You guys are going to see that I love music of all genres. I'm not like, I don't have little groups. I like heavy metal. I like rock. I like country, especially older country. I'm all over the place, and that's how I like it. Willie Nelson and his friends, the Longhorn Jamboree. Some classic prime mid-70s Willie. Willie Nelson live. We have clearly struck a vein of Willie. Del Reeves sings Girl on the Billboard. I like Del Reeves does a version of King of the Road. I think that's why I have this, because he's got a version of King of the Road on it. Which, this is 60s country right here. I dig it. I dig it all. Buck Owens, I've Got a Tiger by the Tail. Buck Owens, classic Bakersfield sound. Merle Haggard would later kind of revive or take the Bakersfield sound to the masses. The honky-tonk country sound, that real bar, the barroom sound. And it wasn't that slick Chet Atkins produced syrupy strings, violins. It was bar music. And Buck Owens was one of the Bakersfield pioneers. WCBS FM 101 History of Rock, the 50s. I love 50s music. I love the history of rock and roll. I love doo-wop. I even love some of the bubblegum stuff, you guys. This one has some great things on it. It's got We're Gonna Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley and the Comets. Earth Angel. You know what? I'll just let you look at it yourself, because it's got a lot of really cool tracks on here. Tons of doo-wop. Doo-wop, a precursor of what is Motown, soul, all that stuff. Started with doo-wop. Carl Perkins, Greatest Hits. One of my issues with this is that Carl Perkins was a Sun Records guy around the same time that Johnny Cash, Elvis, who was it? Charlie Rich, Jerry Lee Lewis, that era Sun Records. And these tracks are re-recorded. These are not the original Sun Record tracks, and that bothers me. I have a lot of Carl Perkins on CD, but I wanted some vinyl, and this is like not the original. It's like 60s re-recordings, and that bothers me. Ooh, Led Zeppelin 4, Zoso, whatever you want to call it. One of the most essential albums ever made, right? Like, this is... what is it? I'm not even going to try. This is amazing. This is one of those that rock was built upon. I'm going to be careful so this doesn't fall out, but the iconic imagery, it's all here. I don't have all of Led Zeppelin on vinyl. I actually have 2 copies of that. Maybe we'll run across the other one too, but I've picked up a couple of copies over the years. And so, Ozzy, Blizzard of Oz. Now, I believe, you guys will correct me if I'm wrong, because some of you guys know more than I do, but I believe that Blizzard of Oz is one of those that the modern CD version has re-recorded guitar parts, allegedly, because Sharon Osbourne had an axe to grind with some of the musicians. Like, I think the bass has been re-recorded and the guitars have been re-recorded. Obviously, I'm not quite up to speed on this because I haven't researched it I haven't done any research for this video. If I were talking about Ozzy's discography, I would know exactly what I'm talking about. But I believe the CD pressings of this, the most recent ones, like the remasters, the quote remasters, has re-recorded guitar, which is a no-no. The older pressings, like the 90s pressings, or the originals, and of course the vinyl is the original as well. But I mean, you guys, this album, Ozzy after Black Sabbath burst onto the scene. I don't know, Crazy Train, Goodbye to Romance, Suicide Solution, Mr. Crowley. This is great. Another essential vinyl must-haves, I think, if you ask me. See, we go from Willie Nelson to Ozzy within like just a couple of records. Country's Greatest Hits. This is one of those like aftermarket huge. How many songs are on here? We'll just say 116 songs are on here, but it's like one vinyl. But it sounds pretty good. Doesn't sound great, but it sounds pretty good. But this has a lot of 60s country on it. Marty Robbins, El Paso. That's a great one, you guys. Marty Robbins, El Paso. I actually like Marty Robbins a lot. Dolly Parton, Flowers on the Wall by the Statler Brothers. This is another. Those are like essential country songs. Everybody has to know them. The Beach Boys, Christmas album. Huge Beach Boys fan. Found this in a thrift store, you guys, for like $1. I was like, what? I could not believe it. And it plays really well, too. I think the days of finding really cool vinyl in the thrift stores are they're going away because everybody's looking for them now. Christmas with Chet Atkins. I think we've stumbled upon a little Christmas section, a little sub-pocket of Christmas. Happy Holidays from True Value Hardware Stores. This is a mix of, you go get like, well, I gotta go get some nails and some cement. And while I'm there, I'll pick up this Christmas album. And so it'd have it's got Loretta Lynn, the Oak Ridge Boys, but Chuck Berry, the Jets, Brenda Lee, Bing Crosby. What a bizarre hodgepodge of recording acts. Merle Haggard, Going Home for Christmas. Now, he had 2 Christmas albums, and they both featured a lot of the same songs, but there were some variations between the 2. I love Merle Haggard. I got to see Merle Haggard with Willie Nelson, like, the year that he died, or, like, shortly before he died. We were excited about Willie Nelson. It was, like, Willie Nelson with Merle Haggard opening, because he was on up there. And, well, Willie's on up there, too, but I guess Merle Haggard did not have the mainstream appeal of a Willie Nelson, but Merle Haggard opened and ended up blowing Willie Nelson out of the water. Like, it was no contest. He was amazing. And then he passed away shortly after that. So I was so grateful that I did get to see him in person. Here's the other Merle Haggard Christmas album, Christmas Present. And this has If We Can Make It Through December. If We Make It Through December, which is like the seminal working man's Christmas song, which is like, if we could just make it through December, it'll probably be okay. Now, this is a repressing. This is not the original. You notice most of my records are vintage. I don't go for a lot of the fancy, modern $30, $25 and $30 printings. I do have some new vinyl, but I'm a big vintage collector of vinyl. But this is one of those repressings. This is a Christmas gift for you. This is basically the Phil Spector Christmas album. The Ronettes, Ronnie and the Ronettes. White Christmas, Frosty the Snowman, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Marshmallow World by Darlene Love. You guys, this sounded southern, Darlene Love. You guys know these songs. These are classic soul 60s Christmas songs, and that's a really good record if you don't have it. Charlie Brown Christmas. This is another repressing. I think this is even on green vinyl. Should we check? Yes, it's on green vinyl. This is, of course, a fantastic album. I love that the way that Vince Guaraldi would, his Charlie Brown music, that jazzy Charlie Brown music, is both happy, celebratory, and also melancholy all at the same time. It's a celebration of childhood. It's a memoriam of childhood in a lot of ways. Vince Guaraldi really tapped into something with with his music, and I think the Christmas album more than any other. Willie Nelson, Pretty Paper. It's his Christmas album. Pretty ribbon, pretty paper. Probably a lot more Willie impressions. I have a second copy of the Chet Atkins Christmas album. It's a really good Christmas album. I know that like the whole outlaw country movement came as a revolt against the Chet Atkins production style. Before its time, I actually liked the Chet Atkins production style. Burl Ives, Have a Holly Jolly Christmas. Burl Ives, the voice of the snowman in the Rudolph Rankin Bass Christmas special. This is original. Merry Christmas from Brenda Lee. This has Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree on it. So this is a classic album as well. Okay, that's 1/3 of our stacks here. So we're starting on the second stack. Paul McCartney, Ram. I love this album. It's a weird one. This is before, kind of between Beatles and Wings. He had the McCartney album, which is basically just him in a 4-track recorder. This isn't too much different, though it gets a little bit more, like it's got Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey on it. But there's a lot of stuff that I like on here. Ram On, Too Many People, Heart of the Country, Monkberry Moon Delight. It's just a weird early 70s Paul McCartney. This is one of my favorite Paul McCartney albums. The Jacksons. What is this album called? Victory. I'm sure I've listened to this, but I don't remember it. State of Shock with Mick Jagger. What? I gotta put this back on the turntable and check it out. This one alone for the art. Let's just take a moment to admire the jacket art, the sleeve art. And on the back we have like a spaceship. You guys know I love stuff like this. And then there's the Jacksons. Michael Jackson already looking strange. These anthologies. Who put these out? These are Motown anthologies. I have a Gladys Knight version of these as well. But this is the Motown anthology of the Jackson 5. I think it's 3 records. Here's the songs that are on it. So quintessential Motown music. I love the rainbow dressing, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we got 3 records. It's a oh geez, I'm doing my best here. I can hear things like crinkling and tearing as I do this. Okay, sorry Jacksons. We got Off the Wall, one of the best. You guys, Off the Wall is my favorite Michael Jackson album, hands down. I love Off the Wall. It's the tail end of disco. So by the time of the next album, which was Thriller, it was like full 80s pop, like the classic stuff. But Off the Wall still has this danceable kind of a thing going on. And I don't do a lot of dancing, but the atmosphere that it projects, it's got this spacey synthesizer kind of a thing going on, and it's just very unique. Of all of Michael Jackson's music, Off the Wall is the anomaly, and it's my favorite. Surprise, the weird one is my favorite, but I love this album. You know what? Let's do some of the tracks. So it's got Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. That's a great one. Rock With You, one of my favorite Michael Jackson songs of all time. I Can't Help It. That's the song. If you want to know kind of what I'm talking about, like I Can't Help It. I don't think it was a single, but it's just a weird, spacey synthesizer driven. It sounds like you would go to a planetarium and watch like a laser show or something like that. The music kind of fits in there with that. It's very, very spacey, but I like that. I think it's really cool. Okay, what else do we got? Oh, we got Thriller. And obviously, I'm not putting down Thriller. Thriller is an incredible album. One of the best albums of all time. Argument to be made that it's close to being a perfect album, but I think that The Girl Is Mine is proof that, not quite. Slow down. It's like, I'm sorry, Michael, but the girl's mine. You can't have her. She loves me, Michael. You see, it's my Paul McCartney. Love Paul McCartney. Don't necessarily love this song. And, Paul McCartney, for all of his darkness, which Paul McCartney has some real serious darkness. But he always felt compelled to like cover it, to hide it, and to project this family-friendly, clean image. And that's like classic crowd-pleasing Paul McCartney. And it's just so saccharine. I just have a hard time with it. Come to Hawaii. You guys, I love Hawaii. Never been, but I love that whole Polynesian atmosphere. You guys know. You watch the channel. You know how I do. I love Polynesian music. I love taking little vacations in your mind. And so anytime I see a Hawaiian album, anytime, if it's playable, it's coming home. I buy these, like, well, you'll see. I have a lot of these things, and I love them. I love just putting it on and chilling out. Petula Clark, or Pet Clark. These are my songs, including Don't Sleep in the Subway, which I think is good advice. I think we can agree that, probably best advice to stick with is don't sleep in the subway. Bob Dylan, Real Live. Some of these, listen, I'm a massive Bob Dylan fan. I've seen him 3 times, I think, including once a couple of years ago. And I love what he's done. I love that he constantly reinvents himself, but some of his albums are not the best. Some of his live stuff, not the best. He really struggled in the 80s and most of the 90s as well. The Beatles, oh shoot, this is falling out. The Beatles live at the Hollywood Bowl. Why is this? Hang on, you guys. We gotta regulate something real quick here. So we're gonna take this jacket. I think the problem is that it's just open on all sides. The sleeve is so worn out that there's no way to put it in here where it actually holds the record in. Yeah, I think that's what we're dealing with. This probably needs to go in a protective bag, but I got this at a thrift store for like, I don't remember exactly what it's thrift store prices, like $1 or $2. The Beatles live at the Hollywood Bowl. And this is one of those that I don't think ever came to CD. So it kind of has survived as a vinyl record all these years, but let me open this up for you guys. Hopefully you can see that. Love the Beatles. Huge Beatles fan. Have been for coming up on 25 years, I guess. Bob Dylan, Bringing It All Back Home. One of his better albums. Subterranean Homesick Blues, She Belongs to Me, Maggie's Farm, Love Minus Zero, No Limits. Mr. Tambourine Man, It's All Right Now. Or It's All Right Ma, I'm Only Bleeding. It's All Right Now? No. Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare. Huge Alice Cooper fan. Of course, I own these things, so I'm probably a fan, right? I should stop, explaining. I really like Alice Cooper. I've done multiple videos about Alice Cooper. Seen him 3 times as well, I believe. This is a great album. A couple of tours ago, I guess it was about 5 years ago, he opened with The Black Widow, which is from this album. And he came out like it was a curtain, and then the curtain fell, and he's standing on this pedestal, and like he is the Black Widow, and he's wearing this costume gimmick thing, and it was just so cool. Great way to start a concert. I don't know the age of this pressing. I doubt it's original, but Elvis, this is his 2nd album. I think Elvis's best album is his first album. It's his hungriest album, like young, hungry Elvis from the mid-50s. But this is his 2nd album, and it's got some great stuff on here, too. It's got Rip It Up, which I like. It's got How Do You Think I Feel? But it's also got Old Shep, which is the most overwrought, sentimental piece of garbage I think Elvis ever committed to record. It was one of those, I love that dog. The dog was my companion. The dog died. That kind of a thing. And it goes back, there's stories about it, he would sing that in talent shows and make everybody cry. So, whatever. It was a different time, but I do not like that song. Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds. You guys know how I love my 60s music. Waylon Jennings, Collectors, what is this called? The Collectors series. This is an aftermarket compilation. But it is RCA. Love Waylon, you guys. Waylon is probably, I was going to say he's probably one of my favorite outlaw country people, but I don't know that I can say that because he's up there. In my opinion, it's Willie, it's Waylon, it's Merle, it's Johnny Cash, even maybe Chris Christopherson. They're kind of all on the same plateau for me. I really love that stuff. Hotel California, of course, very seminal. I got this at a yard sale. I don't remember if I covered it on the channel or not. I think maybe I did, but it was like $1. These people were just getting rid of their classic rock LPs. I was like, yeah, I'll take that. I don't know what this is called. This is just a 50s music compilation, or I guess early 60s. Carl Perkins, Blue Suede Shoes. Remember Walking in the Sand, which Aerosmith covered, maybe famously or notoriously, it's up to you. Whole Lot of Shaking Going On by Jerry Lee Lewis. Yeah, those are the big ones. Johnny Cash, Orange Blossom Special. This is one of my favorite Johnny Cash albums. It's got his cover of It Ain't Me, Babe. The song Orange Blossom Special is really cool. He plays two different harmonicas in two different keys. Like, he does a harmonica solo with two different harmonicas. It's impressive. And then there's Don't Think Twice, It's Alright. He does a cover of the Bob Dylan song Don't Think Twice, It's Alright. And then Mama, You've Been on My Mind, which is another Bob Dylan song that I think George Harrison did the definitive version of. But and like, legendarily, Bob Dylan never put that thing, like, he had it for years and years, and Bob Dylan never recorded it or put it on an album. It was just kind of a demo. Because a lot of these guys, like Bob Dylan, made a ton of money off publishing. So he would not necessarily record songs, but he would write them, demo them so you could see how it was supposed to sound, and then sell them. And Mama, You've Been on My Mind was George Harrison's favorite Bob Dylan song for a long time, maybe always. And I think George Harrison has the definitive version of that song, which pops up on, I don't know that we'll see it in this video, but it pops up on the Martin Scorsese documentary, Living in the Material World, the George Harrison documentary, which I covered on a Beatles, like my Beatles movie collection or DVD and Blu-ray collection. I think that's what it was called. I talked about that documentary there, but there's a soundtrack, and it's mostly unreleased music, like demos and stuff that Harrison did, and there's like a haunting version of that song with like pedal steel. It's basically like a country version of that song, but it's great. Roy Orbison, The Fastest Gun Alive. Now this has There Won't Be Many Coming Home on it, which, as seen in was it the Inglourious Bastards? I think it was Inglourious Bastards. No. My train is on a different track, and I got to switch the gears. The most recent Tarantino movie before Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with Kurt Russell. You guys, my memory, like, I cannot pull the name of that movie. Kurt Russell, Samuel L. Jackson. We're all just waiting. The Hateful Eight. There it is. I'm getting old. Isn't that song the one that closes the credits of The Hateful Eight? There Won't Be Many Coming Home. This is the album that it was taken from. Roy Orbison. When he hits this falsetto, you guys just shut the front door, because it's over. The Eagles. This is their first album. It's a great first album. Take It Easy, Witchy Woman. Train Leaves Here This Morning. That's a great one. I know they played it. I got to see them before Glenn Frey died. I saw the Eagles on their history tour. I think, whatever it was called. I think it was the History of the Eagles tour. And they played Train Leaves Here This Morning. That's a great song. Kind of a melancholy California country song. Peaceful, Easy Feeling. This is a fantastic album. A lot of acts. I'm going to put Kiss in there too. Like, their first album, I think, is their best album, because it's the one that they're the hungriest for. They have the most back material that they've written, and they've perfected it, and they've honed it, and they've lived with it. And then they never get that experience again of having so much time to prep that first album. But I don't know. That's just me. Paul McCartney, All the Best. Double album. My favorite Paul McCartney song is Another Day, which was a single. Was not on any of the albums. It wasn't collected on any of the McCartney LPs, but it's on this one. Another Day. It really captures, when I was talking about like the dark side, like McCartney is both pop, like syrupy perfection, and a darker, like a darker thing going on. And that song really captures both aspects, the melancholy and the commercial. And I think it's as good as it gets with McCartney. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This is the remaster, the reissue from 5-6 years ago. I had intended to get all of these, but it hasn't happened yet. I kind of just stopped. I would prefer to have all these in mono. This is the stereo, I believe. But I'm into Beatles in mono because, let's face it, stereo for the Beatles was kind of an afterthought. They didn't record this music for stereo. They recorded it in mono. And then the stereo kind of happened after the fact. So I prefer my Beatles in mono. But Blast from Your Past by Ringo. with You're 16, You're Beautiful, and You're Mine. That was not a good Ringo. Sometimes I can do it. Back Off Boogaloo. Boku of Blues. You gotta love Ringo. Bob Dylan, Hard Rain. One of the great covers. I like this period of Bob Dylan with the Captain Jack Sparrow eye makeup, the bouffant hairdo. I love this 70s gritty Bob Dylan. This is recorded during the era of the Rolling Thunder Review, if my memory is serving me correctly. And I don't think that this LP really captures what made those performances special, but still pretty good. Guitars, Mick Ronson, T-Bone Burnett. A couple of guys that have gone on to some piano, T-Bone Burnett. Some talent on this, man, but love the cover. And like I said, I love how he was constantly reinventing himself too, as is with evidenced by Blood on the Tracks. Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks. Great 70s album that chronicles his divorce. What do we got? Wes Montgomery's Greatest Hits. Wes Montgomery is a not a guitarist. He's a he's a jazz guitarist. He does a cover of A Day in the Life on this. Georgia on My Mind. I really like this. This whole collection. These are the A&M Records Greatest Hits. I have a few of these and I really enjoy them. Eagles, The Long Run. Not my favorite Eagles album. Again, I think probably the first one is my favorite. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Four-Way Street. I haven't touched this one in a long time. I'll have to do something about that. This is a live album. I don't tend to listen to a lot of. I prefer studio over live, but I know that's sacrilege. The original soundtrack for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly by Ennio Morricone. This is one of my prized possessions. I love this record. The music for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is incredible. I would say that the main theme, but also the Ecstasy of Gold, is about as good as it gets. Here's a Reader's Digest or something. Yeah, Reader's Digest Christmas collection. I got this years and years ago for vintage Christmas music. This has a lot of the crooners and stuff, like Sinatra, Bing Crosby, things like that. All right, we have gone through 2 of the 3 stacks of records. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we're half an hour or so. That's pretty good. Herb Alpert, Fandango. I believe we talked about this on the channel at some point. I believe I did them in a thrift store video because they all came from the same batch. Herb Alpert, Rise. I think Herb Alpert is one of the most underrated producers, performers, and songwriters that exists in modern music. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit as he should. Yvonne DiCarlo sings. Now, I've got to be honest with you, I've never listened to this. I don't think it's in particularly good shape, but Yvonne DiCarlo is Hollywood royalty, you guys. You know, she's in the 10 Commandments. And then, of course, she would end her career, not end her career, she would end her career in bad 80s horror movies, but she was Lily Munster on The Munsters. And she had an album. This was like $1. I was like, yeah, just for historical documentation, I had to have it. The Beat of the Brass, Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. See previous conversation about Herb Alpert. Oh, you guys. Chris Christopherson. That's Silver Tongue. Well, it's the Silver Tongue Devil and I. Great song. Chris Christopherson. You guys. I love Chris Christopherson so much. And if you only know him from more modern movies or like his 80s and 90s stuff, really seek out some of his 70s work. You know what? Check out a movie called Vigilante Force. It's the one I always recommend to people. Chris Christopherson, the actor, has never been more dangerous, but also magnetic, as in Vigilante Force. Like, he's a real piece of crap in that movie, but he's so good. It's got Jan Michael Vincent, rest in peace. And this guy, like, it's this guy's brother. It's Jan Michael Vincent's brother. He comes into town. He's a crazy guy. Town's out of control. So Chris Christopherson's like, you want me to help? I'm going to whip this town into shape. And then he goes too far and ends up kind of ruling the whole town and making himself this little king. And it's really good. And he's so good. Anyway, Chris Christopherson, the Silver Tongue Devil, and I'd also recommend you check out his music. There's an anthology from Rhino. I want to say it's Rhino. It's a 2-disc set, and it's really full of his highlights. He wrote Sunday Morning Coming Down that Johnny Cash covered. He was one of the Highwaymen with Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings. Love and Spoonful, greatest hits. Love the Love and Spoonful. I'd like to get more of their stuff on vinyl. Burt Bacharach, reach out when it comes to 60s pop, whatever. Love that stuff. Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66. Kind of in the same vein as Herb Alpert. Herb Alpert is kind of responsible for discovering these guys. And it's the same kind of thing, that 60s, hippie, groovy, poppy, whatever. I dig Sergio Mendes a lot. The Who live at Leeds. I did a video about these. I got all these. These are kind of in a stack together because I bought them at the same time at the record show about a year ago. The Spy Who Loved Me. This came from a thrift store. It's a cutout, but do we care? Just to have, just to have the, if for no other reason than for the artwork and things like that. But James Bond music is always really good too. The Association live. I dig the Association quite a bit. I think some of you guys do too, because I've gotten a lot of feedback when I talk about the Association. You guys are like, yeah, they're pretty cool. They're still touring. I don't know how many of them are original members, but they're still out touring. They got to be, 70. But if they still sound good, which hopefully they do. Here's another Sergio Mendes album, Look Around. With a little help from my friends, a cover of the Beatles, The Look of Love. You guys know that. The Look of Love. Dusty Springfield did that one, I believe. Sergio Mendes in Brazil 66. What is this one? Yemele. Hoyt Axton. We talked about this. He was the dad on The Gremlins. He's in an episode of WKRP in Cincinnati. Singer-songwriter from the 70s. Country. Flirted with Hollywood. Was a successful actor. But he has a song on here called Della and the Dealer. And it's fantastic. Check it out. KC and the Sunshine Band. The Essential disco album / funk, whatever you want to call it. More Herb Alpert. Warm. Y'all, his music just makes me feel kind of warm. You know what I mean? Here's another Motown anthology. This is my Gladys Knight and the Pips Motown anthology. Love me some Motown. As I'm recording this, we've just passed the 60th anniversary of Motown. And Berry Gordy is still alive. The founder of Motown is still with us. And they did a CBS television special that was actually really good. Stevie Wonder performed. Diana Ross performed. It was a really good show. Not Lionel Richie. Smokey Robinson. So they're coming out with a 60th anniversary limited edition 11 CD set, and I think I might have to add that to the Serial at Midnight archives because I love Motown. I love a lot of things. My heart's just too big, y'all. Sugarloaf. Green-Eyed Lady. I own this because of Green-Eyed Lady. You know what I'm talking about. If I sing more, I'll get a copyright strike from YouTube. That's a legit thing that happens. You gotta be careful. But like even singing a song. Now this is gonna be private for you guys on Patreon. But even if you sing a song, if the recording artist or the writer or someone who owns the copyright sees that, they can hit you with that. You get a copyright strike. It is crazy. Which is why we do things on Facebook in addition to YouTube, because Facebook is a little bit looser and there's less police trying to control everything that you do. Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66, Fool on the Hill. Naked Eyes. They're the band that sang Always Something There to Remind Me, which now I think I associate with Burger King, because that was part of the Burger King marketing campaign from like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe longer than that. But I don't think when companies, I know it's a buck when you license out your music for a commercial. I know it's a buck that you get, and you pay for the house or whatever. But I don't know that all these companies are really considering the association. Like I now associate Led Zeppelin's rock and roll music with Cadillac. That was the one, right? And Start Me Up with shoes, with Nike. It's not a good association. Here we go. This is what I was talking about. It's the George Harrison Living in the Material World soundtrack, the Early Takes Volume 1. The audio companion piece to the award-winning documentary featuring 10 previously unreleased recordings on 180-gram vinyl. By the way, 180-gram audiophile vinyl. I think it's a gimmick. I don't fall for it. I have records that sound amazing that are pressed on they're like a playing card thick. I think it's just a gimmick to make people feel like they're getting more for their money. Apparently this was a good deal though. Look, $17.99 for a brand new record, and I do listen to this. This has some great, again, it's like acoustic demos and like stuff that he just did in his home studio, and it's amazing how country some of them are. A lot of pedal steel, a lot of just like really melancholy. His slide, in that 70s period, he was so good at the slide guitar. It's really good though. Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, Casino Royale. No, sounds like that. It's got Casino Royale on it, but the album is called Sounds Like. It sounds like Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, but I don't know who it actually is. Just know that it sounds like Herb Alpert. Streets of Fire, the soundtrack. My German Blu-ray of this is Straßen in Flammen. So every time I see Streets of Fire, I just think Straßen in Flammen. You have to say it like that too. Straßen in Flammen! You can't say it. Straßen in Flammen. It's got to be like you're spitting it. Oh, you guys, my Rolling Stones collection is in here. I should have worn my Rolling Stones shirt. We're about to take a tour of the Rolling Stones. I will cover this in a future video. I will do a whole dedicated video to Rolling Stones, like maybe even album by album. I don't know, but so let's just get it. Let's get on with it. So the first Rolling Stones album. Now I don't have, pardon me, I don't have the EP. They put out an EP, I think a 4-song EP before their first album, and that's really good too. These are also, I believe these are the American versions of the first few. After you get up, into the mid-60s, it didn't matter anymore. But like with the Beatles and people like that, the earlier albums, you had American versions and you had English versions or European versions, and they had different track listings. Rolling Stones, More Hot Rocks. See, these are clearly in no order because why would More Hot Rocks be first? Why would More Hot Rocks be in front of Hot Rocks? Famous cover though. This is one of those very famous. I think everybody has Hot Rocks, or like most people have it. It's like the joke in Wayne's World about Frampton Comes Alive, and he's like, I believe they sent that record with samples of Tide in the mail. I think this is one of those too. Check out, looking very Renaissance Fair on the back. Just sailed in from Tortuga Bay. Sticky Fingers with working zipper, I might add. But something's wrong with it. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think this is, I don't know. Yeah, did the original album open like this? I don't know if it's supposed to do that. I mean, it's grooved, like it's cut there to do that, but I don't know. Mine does, and I'm not buying this again. That's my vintage Sticky Fingers copy. Exile on Main Street, which is the front. Here's the front. Exile on Main Street. Whenever I do these on the channel proper, they will be in order. Some Girls. By the way, I think Some Girls is the last solid Rolling Stones album. I think after that they get kind of sporadic, kind of hit or miss. Beggar's Banquet. I don't know if that's showing up because it's white. Beggar's Banquet, one of my favorites. When pressed for my favorite, I usually have a hard time picking between this one and Let It Bleed. But let's see. Beggar's Banquet has Sympathy for the Devil, No Expectations. I love No Expectations. Dear Dr. Parachute Woman. Oh, you guys. Street Fighting Man. Stray Cat Blues. Stray Cat Blues is the first Rolling Stones song to have that classic post. Now, I know that Brian Jones is technically part of this, but it's got that Keith sound with the special tuning, the that open tuning where he could just like bar chord and play. I'm getting too inside, but Stray Cat Blues. If you haven't heard it, check it out. I love that song. It's, in my opinion, the first classic song of that sound. Rolling Stones, for me, there's periods. There's like the 60s period, and then they transition into like something else. And I think that this is the album where things kind of transition. But then again, you know, this one has Let It Bleed, Love in Vain, which is probably top 3 Rolling Stones songs for me. So I don't know, Expectations versus Love in Vain. I don't know. Give Me Shelter. You Got the Silver. I like that one. Monkey Man. This is tough. I think I'm going to go with Beggar's Banquet. Tomorrow, if I had to choose my favorite Rolling Stones album, it might be Let It Bleed. But we've gotten too deep into the weeds. I'm sorry. Rolling Stones, Out of Their Heads. Out of Our Heads. What did I say? Out of Their Heads. This is the 60s period. Satisfaction. The Spider and the Fly. Play with Fire. Rolling Stones 12 by 5. I believe this is the second album. Second full-length album in America. Back when they were basically just an electric blues band, which I actually liked. The Rolling Stones, December's Children and Everybody's. Now this is where things get tricky because this cover exists on a UK version of a different album, right? Or this album has a different title. It's very confusing the way that they did these things, but I like this album a lot. I think my favorite earlier 60s album is, well, it's not this one, Aftermath. This has Paint It Black on it. This is where they first started to get into that heavier, you know, that other sound. I know it's here. Here it is. Between the Buttons. I really like Between the Buttons. Come on, man. Come on, man. This is like stuck. Okay. Between the Buttons has Let's Spend the Night Together, Yesterday's Papers, Ruby Tuesday. Let's see. Something Happened to Me Yesterday. Very psychedelic, mod, whatever. I like this period quite a bit. I wish that I don't have any of the Rolling Stones. Like they put out a mono box set and I think a stereo box set, not vinyl but CD. I would actually like to get those albums on CD, just for the cleanness of them all. Goat's Head Soup. This is a great album as well. Well, hold on. It's a good album. It's not a great album. It's a good album. This has some really. I basically stopped the video just to talk about the Rolling Stones, but that's okay, right? There's no track listing, so I'm gonna have to take the LP out. Here's the original sleeve, and it's in a replacement sleeve. Let's go through it one by one. Side 1, Dancing with Mr. D. I like that one. 100 Years Ago, Coming Down Again. I like that one a lot. Do 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 do. Heartbreaker. I like that one. AJ. Side 2 is Silver Train, Hide Your Love, Winter, Can You Hear the Music, and Star Star, aka Star Effer. That's I don't know, I like this album. It's got a darkness to it for sure. Obviously so, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes. But I dig it, man. Now I want to go listen to some Stones. Carefully put this back in the sleeve. You see, a lot of my records don't have these sleeves. I need to invest in another round of these plastic sleeves. Okay. The Association's Greatest Hits. See previous conversation about The Association. Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66's Greatest Hits. This is one of those that the A&M Greatest Hits that we were talking about with the Wes Montgomery LP. I like this style. This is so 60s and so of its time. And the music, listen, I still listen. I have this on vinyl. I have it on CD. I think I even have it. Well, I have it digitally because I've ripped the CD. I don't carry like a Discman around. And my CD car player, the CD player in my car hasn't been used in years. I just use my iPhone. I put all my music, I rip it to my iPhone, and then I listen to when I'm out. That's what I listen to. And then when I'm home, turntable, record on the turntable. Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. What now, my love? See, she wants to tell him something. He's like, what now, my love? She's like, your zipper is down. And he's like, oh, so sorry. This is this is a whole series that I won on eBay recently, and you'll see I haven't gotten super far into it. It's the Dukes of the Dukes of Dixieland, which were a revival Dixieland jazz group from the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, and then like the two founding members died very young. They died like I think before the end of the 60s. They were gone, like in their 30s maybe. Anyway, young. I scored these because listen, there's not a huge market for Dixieland jazz, but I scored this whole lot. This was like 8 LPs. We will see. Maybe it was 10. For under $10 shipped. So here's the best of the Dukes of Dixieland, Volume 2. Here's the Dukes of Dixieland on Parade. By the way, this one still sealed, and I will listen to it eventually. It's a lot to go through. Louis and the Dukes of Dixieland. So it's Louis Armstrong and the Dukes of Dixieland. Circus Time with the phenomenal Dukes of Dixieland. Creepy cover, right? Creepy clown. I dig it. He'll be appearing in the next Rob Zombie movie. On Campus with the Dukes of Dixieland, Volume 8. So these are numbered, I guess. This was Volume 7. Volume... that doesn't seem to have a volume on it. Whatever. On Campus with the Dukes of Dixieland. Check out the... It's weird. Okay. Dukes of Dixieland, Volume 9. Up the Mississippi. Now, this is my favorite of the bunch because check out Mr. Banjo here. I think this is like the dad or the grandpa. I actually have a picture of this, and I thought about making it my avatar, like my thumbnail for social media, but no one would get it. They'd just be like, what? That's weird. But you guys would know. If I did it, you guys would know. He's also kind of like jaundiced or green looking. Like, is he okay? I don't know. This one's still sealed as well. Carnegie Hall Concert. This is Volume 10. Still sealed. I swear there's Volume 1 in here somewhere. This is Volume 11. This is like ragtime music. Piano ragtime. It's like being in Main Street, USA of Disney World. Like you go in the Magic Kingdom. It's like that music. A little bit more. Well, it's like that mixed with like New Orleans all the time. It's like Live and Let Die meets Disney World. There you go. Volume 1's around here somewhere, I promise. Maybe it's because I was listening to it. Greatest Hits from Hawaii, the Waikikis. This is more of my mellow, go to Hawaii in your mind music. As is Hawaii Calls, Greatest Hits. Hey, Dixieland Jazz. This one is a little bit rough as far as, first of all, I love the cover. I'm looking for a better copy of it because it doesn't skip, but it's very, even though I've cleaned it, it's very just dirty sounding. It's got a lot of, it's worn. It's been listened to and loved. Here we go. The Best of Dukes of Dixieland. This is Volume 1. It's awesome. It has a version of When the Saints Go Marching In. It's the opening of Side 2. Maybe look at it on YouTube or something like that if it's there. I don't know, but it is impressive. It is like a foot stomping. Like you can't stay still. Like I know you guys maybe you're like, what is he talking about? Like Dixieland Jazz. Like what is he, 78 years old? But when you listen to it, obviously, like I'm into some of the weirder stuff. I like the offbeat. I like the unconventional, but it's just good music and that they're not talking about it. You listen to that song, it makes you happy. That feeling that you get from certain Disney movies or whatever, The Jungle Book, it's that feeling. Anyway, it's a great version of When the Saints Go Marching In. I'm rambling. Johnny Cash, The Johnny Cash Show. This is culled from his, it's a variety show. We call it a variety show. Bossa Nova Goes to Nashville. Harold Bradley and his guitar orchestra. That's cool, right? Bossa Nova meets 60s country. I'm trying to see if this has a year on it. It doesn't, but I think we can firmly place that in the 60s. I'm going to say like 64, maybe. I'm guessing, but it's very cool stuff. Very cool. We're almost done, you guys. Eddie Cochran, never to be forgotten. Eddie Cochran, pioneer of rock and roll, you guys. This has Long Tall Sally. 20 Flight Rock, that was his biggest. I think that's the one that, like Brian Setzer from the Stray Cats, he plays 20 Flight Rock a lot. Milk Cow Blues, Sweetie Pie, Blue Suede Shoes, Long Tall Sally. These are covers, but Eddie Cochran was so cool. Died very young. He's one of those, so many of these guys live fast and they died young. I think he died in a car accident. But Eddie Cochran is great. You know, Buddy Holly, Eddie Cochran, Little Richard, Big Bopper. Not all of those died young. I'm just saying those are the founding fathers of a certain sound. Jan and Dean's golden hits. In the same vein as the Beach Boys, that early 60s vocal sound, Jan and Dean were pretty big. And I believe I have Volume 2 somewhere. Yeah, Jan and Dean's Golden Hits Volume 2. Surf City, that was there. So a lot of people think Surf City is a Beach Boys song. It's a Jan and Dean song. But though I think Brian Wilson had something to do with Surf City. He may have written it. I can't, because I'm not doing a Jan and Dean video. I'm not fresh on all these facts. But I believe they were friends with Brian Wilson. I know they worked together. And they did the song for, there's a 1964 movie called Ride the Wild Surf with Shelley Fabre, who you guys know I dig, Barbara Eden, pre-I Dream of Jeannie, who you guys know I also dig, and Susan Hart, who ended up being the heiress of like the AIP, the American International Pictures, some of those catalogs. Like, she was married to the one of the AIP producers, and now she holds the rights to like 5 or 6 of those movies that will never see the light of day because of Susan Hart. But in the 60s, she was in all the Beach Blanket movies, like Beach Blanket, Bingo, or whatever. The Beach Party movies. That's what I'm trying to say. And so it's the 3 of those with it's a surf movie, and Jan and Dean did the song for that. It was a long way to go to tell you that story. But this is how my brain works. This is all the time. This is how I am all the time. Jan and Dean's Golden Hits Volume 3 with their version of the Batman theme, which is pretty cool, actually. Detroit City, not Detroit Rock City. Wouldn't it be cool if Jan and Dean had a version of Detroit Rock City? That'd be amazing. I love this collection. This is a thrift store collection as well. This is Hawaii Melodies from Paradise. This is a 5. I think it's 5. Does it tell us? I'm not going to take it out, but this is one of those big, sturdy book cover, book club kind of editions. Not Reader's Digest. It's from the Longines Symphony Orchestra. There's a whole story about that, but we don't have to get into it. But this is just one of those mail away. This was very expensive in the 60s, but all of these records are like flawless. No dust, no fingerprints, flawless. Probably because whoever bought it didn't listen to it a lot. But I do. I actually listen to it quite a bit. Mariachis de Mexico. This is mariachi music. This is fun. Sounds like you're in a Mexican restaurant. You put it on, you want a certain tone, a certain vibe. This is kind of the thing that we started out with the gypsy music. It's just, you pop it on, you're in a different place. The 60s were famous for albums of like exotica and world music and things like that, and I really dig it. You guys, here's another one of these. Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, the greatest hits in the A&M Records greatest hits style. And last but not least, a super sexy Herb Alpert, Blow Your Own Horn, which I guess I'll do as soon as I finish recording this video. But this is 80s Herb Alpert. So that is about 1/3 of my vinyl collection. It's a lot, you guys. I know. I'm a big music enthusiast. So got any thoughts about it? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for supporting me on Patreon, being a part of the community, being so active. I really do value you guys so much. So hopefully you enjoyed this roughly 1-hour tour of my vinyl collection, part 1 of probably 3. So guys, take care. I appreciate you guys very much. Until next time, I will catch you later.